Welcome to your personalized deep dive. Today we're tackling social influence, and you sent in quite the paper, The Concepts of Social Influence. It's a lot to unpack, but that's why we're here.
Absolutely. We'll dig into the good stuff, conformity, compliance, obedience, you name it. How these sneaky forces shape our lives every day, even when we don't realize it.
Social influence, right? It's like, yeah, we kind of know people influence us, but this goes deeper, doesn't it? It's not just like someone trying to sell you something. It's,
It's pervasive, this invisible web. And it all boils down to us humans, we're wired for connection, we crave belonging, acceptance. It's in our DNA.
okay, yeah, that tracks, but do we really need a whole scientific paper to tell us that other people's opinions matter? Seems kind of obvious.
Well, it might seem obvious, but trust me, the research is eye-opening. It reveals just how doubly susceptible we are, and in some pretty unexpected ways. Ever heard of Solomon Ash's conformity
Oh,
experiments?
yeah, Ash. The
Yeah.
line experiment, right, where people agreed with the group even when the answer was totally wrong.
You got it. Ash found that a whopping 75% of people caved to group pressure at least once, even when the answer was staring them right in the face.
75%? Wow, I would have thought, well, I guess I'm probably susceptible too. But why are we so afraid to be the odd one out?
Well, Ash found that the more we want to be part of a group, the more likely we are to conform, like a ticket to entry.
Makes sense. We trade our better judgment to fit in.
Yeah.
So what else makes us conform?
Well, think about it. Have you ever been in a situation where you weren't sure of the answer, so you look to others for clues?
Oh, totally.
Mhm.
Especially if it's something I'm not familiar with. Like, better to be wrong with a group than wrong on your own.
Exactly. And of course, there's the big one, the fear of rejection, going against the grain. That's tough, even if it means betraying your own beliefs.
Yeah, it's like that deep-seated need to belong since, like, forever. But I guess conformity isn't always a bad thing. Like following traffic rules, that's good.
Exactly. Conformity is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for, well, not so good.
So it's all about finding that balance, right? Fitting in without losing ourselves completely.
Mhm.
But how do we do that?
That's where understanding these principles becomes crucial. Once we're aware of these forces, we can make conscious choices about when to follow the crowd and when to trust our gut.
Okay, so conformity, check. But what about those situations where someone's actively trying to get us to say, yes? That's compliance, right? Like bring on the sales tactics.
Oh, you're diving right into the good stuff. And yeah, compliance is fascinating. It's all about persuasion, those sneaky psychological tactics, like the scarcity effect. Ever heard of that one?
Scarcity effect. Yeah, it rings a bell. Is that the one where we want something more when we think it's rare? Like limited time offer, suddenly I need it now.
You nail it. It's like our brains are hardwired to prioritize scarce resources. Probably goes back to our cavemen days. When food was scarce, you got to grab it while you can.
So those marketing gurus are tapping into our primal instincts. Sneaky.
Yeah.
What other compliance tricks are up their sleeves?
Well, there's this one called the foot in the door technique. Basically, you get someone to say yes to something small, and then bam, they're more likely to say yes to a bigger request later.
Oh, I've fallen for that one.
Mhm.
Like when a friend asks to borrow a tiny amount, then later they want, well, a lot more.
Exactly. And the research backs it up. This technique works wonders, from getting donations to boosting sales.
So it's like they're reeling us in with those small asks.
Yeah.
But why does it work so well? Is it just about guilt?
It's deeper than that. We want to be seen as consistent, reliable. Once we've committed to something, even something small, there's this inner pressure to keep our word, even if the stakes go up.
Ah, so it's like we've already said yes, might as well keep going. But this compliance thing, it's not always bad, right? Can it be used for good?
That's the thing about social influence. It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used ethically or, well, not so ethically. Think about those public service announcements. Encouraging good behaviors like recycle.
Right, so they're using these psychological tricks to nudge people in a positive direction, like social influence for the greater good.
Exactly. But then you've got those misleading ads, the high pressure sales tactics. That's when things get murky, ethically speaking.
Yeah, good point. Speaking of pressure, we got to talk about obedience to authority. This Milgram experiment in the paper, that one always freaks me out a little.
The Milgram experiment, yeah, definitely thought-provoking, to put it mildly. It exposed how far people will go to obey, even if it means going against their own morals.
It's crazy that over 60% of those participants were willing to, deliver what they thought were dangerous shocks, all because a guy in a lab coat told them to.
It's chilling, right? It
Yeah.
shows the raw power of authority figures. Under the right circumstances, people can do things they never thought possible.
It's like our own moral compass just shuts down in those situations. But why are we so susceptible to blind obedience like that? What's
Yep.
going on there?
Milgram pointed to a few key factors. One is the legitimacy of the authority figure. In his study, the experimenter was introduced as, like, this big shot scientist. Instant credibility.
So it's not just about the orders, it's about who's giving them. The uniform, the title, the fancy setting, it all adds up.
Exactly. And don't forget, from a young age, we're taught to obey authority, parents, teachers, you name it. Obedience is rewarded, disobedience is punished.
True. We internalize those power dynamics early on. But back to Milgram for a sec. Why else did those folks keep upping the voltage? Was it just the setting and the authority figure, or was there more to it?
Well, think about it. The experiment itself, it was set up in a way that made it really hard to stop. They started with those small shocks, then kept increasing the voltage.
Right, like each shock, even if they felt iffy about it, it was harder to say no because they had already agreed to the one before. It's scary how we can get caught in that trap.
It really is. And here's the kicker. It's not just in labs. This happens in the real world all the time.
Okay, now you've got me nervous. What kind of real-world situations are we talking about? Give me an example.
Okay, so there was this other study, the Hoffling Hospital experiment back in '66. They wanted to see how obedience played out in, well, a hospital.
A hospital? Oh, wow, that's a high-stakes environment. What did they do? Stage a fake emergency or something?
Not quite. They had this doctor call up the nurses, a doctor they didn't know, and tell them to give a patient a dangerous dose of, get this, a made-up medication.
Wait, a fictional drug? How did that even work?
So they told the nurses it was this new experimental drug, right? But the dose the doctor ordered, it was clearly marked as unsafe right there on the bottle. And to make things even more sketchy, hospital rules forbade taking orders over the phone. Red flags everywhere.
Oh, man, they were really putting those nurses to the test. So did anyone speak up?
Get this. Out of 22 nurses who got that call, 21 of them were ready to give the medication. Luckily, they stopped them before anything actually happened. But it just goes to show how strong that pull of obedience is, especially in a place like a hospital where there's that hierarchy.
That is wild and a little terrifying, if I'm being honest. I mean, we trust medical professionals, right? That doctor-nurse relationship and all. But it's a good reminder to trust your gut, you know? If something feels wrong, speak up, even if it means questioning someone who seems like they know better.
100%. Never underestimate the power of critical thinking, even when you feel that pressure to obey.
So after this deep dive into social influence, where do we even go from here? It feels like we're walking on eggshells.
Knowledge is power, right?
Mhm.
We've uncovered these principles of conformity, compliance, and obedience. We see how they work. Now we can be more aware of them in our own lives.
Yeah, like we've been wandering around in a fog, and now the fog is lifting.
Exactly. We're not going to be immune to social influence. That's impossible. But now we can be more discerning. See the traps, know our own weaknesses, and make choices that feel right for us.
So we can say no when someone tries those sneaky tactics, or question authority when things seem off.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot, fitting in and standing out, saying yes when it feels right and no when we need to, respecting authority but trusting our gut.
That's a great point to end on. So listener, while you're out there navigating the world today, think about your own experiences. Where have you seen social influence at play? And how can this new awareness help you walk through the world with a little more confidence, a little more purpose? Keep those wheels turning.
Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Your support helps us keep creating valuable content like this. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Join our community for more insights into psychology and personal development. Let's grow and learn together. See you in the next video.